Good evening, Miss Scarlett.
Good evening.
It is a terrible tragedy to have befallen Dr. Black tonight. I would like to ask you a few questions. Firstly, you are head of the stage committee. Can you explain to me why you supported Dr. Black's presidency initially and entrusted him with your loan for Mr. Green?
Well, stage is the lifeblood of the Arts and Letters Club. The drama, the fire, the soul. And as chair of stage, I bring all that and more. Sadly, the infrastructure of the stage itself is in need of repair and cannot cope with the demand that the talent we have wanting to use it has. So, upgrades are vital, are really necessary. I was confident that Dr. Black would be thrilled to be part of the revitalization of the stage, and as such, I borrowed money from Mr. Green, certain that the loan would be repaid tenfold in ticket sales.
What did you do with the wrench you found backstage?
I must have set it down somewhere, perhaps in the lounge.
When you plotted with Professor Plum to ensnare Dr. Black, were you planning to kill him after catching him?
Oh, no, never! If I've incriminated myself by saying I wish to see Black dead, well, all I meant to do was to frighten and intimidate him into giving up his sordid plan to destroy the club and to make him return the money that I had borrowed from Mr. Green.
Did you know that Dr. Black was already drinking coffee in the library?
Oh, yes. Professor Plum told me that he had served Dr. Black with coffee. 1 cup of coffee, however, is not enough for Dr. Black. He drinks that stuff all day to keep himself awake all night. I knew it was just a question of time before he came looking for another cup of coffee.
Did you hear a gunshot? And why would someone be shooting?
I did hear a gunshot. As to the why, well, isn't that what guns are for, to kill people?
What did you see when you looked towards the stage?
I saw someone moving behind the curtain. Perhaps it was them who fired the gunshot.
Thank you for your cooperation, Colonel Mustard.
I understand this has been a very stressful time.
Nonetheless,
Your insight could prove useful.
firstly, I understand that you carry a revolver.
Why did you bring it tonight?
Well, as a distinguished military veteran, I always carry my trusty service revolver. I didn't bring it intending to cause any problem, if that's what you're insinuating.
Can you elaborate on your military career turned art career, as well as your involvement here at the club? I understand there's been quite some deception on your end.
Much of my glittering military career is a bit of an embellishment. It makes for good stories, battle stories, and members' night. I never let the truth get in the way of a good story. I met Mr. Green, who convinced me that I could make a killing using my reputation to market myself as an artist and catered to the carriage trade. He connected me with Dr. Black, who agreed to showcase my work to his society friends, and eventually I opened up a studio, Mustard's Milieu. The trouble is, I have terrible arthritis and don't really know how to paint.
Oh.
So we had to pull a few strings. Unfortunately, Dr. Black seemed to have found out.
Who is this person, Monsieur Alfonso Brunet? Did you truly meet him on a reconnaissance on your previous battle?
I'm afraid not. Monsieur Brunet is a shady art dealer whom Mr. Green introduced me to. Brunet arranged for my entire collection of art by paying eager, unestablished artists to forge paintings under my name.
Did you stay with Mrs. Peacock downstairs when you went for her coat?
No, I admit she passed out briefly. And I left her downstairs for a while.
And then what did you do?
I took the dagger Dr. Black left in my beautiful portrait of him, and I opened up a box of ammo.
Ah.
Sort of secreted myself among the coats in the coat rack, and I loaded my service revolver. I felt the volatile situation required it.
I see. So that means it was you who fired the gunshot.
Yes, I heard a commotion from the great hall, and I went up through the backstage staircase, and I fired at the individual I believed to be Dr. Black. I wanted to scare the bejesus out of him.
Hello, Mrs. White, my dear. If you don't mind my asking, can you share with me what exactly is your role here at the Arts and Letters Club?
You should know. I'm the general manager. I keep the place running. Of course, you may think somebody else is, but I am, in fact.
I understand that you've been closely helping Dr. Black to fulfill his role as president. Just how closely were you involved with him?
I did some favors, and I helped him find some money hanging round in the club. And I made sure there were no obstructions to his becoming president. And, of course, he dismissed all the catering staff, and I was left to handle all that domestic work. But he promised me a penthouse in his new building, and I believed him.
What did you do after you were in the lamps room and asked Professor Plum to help bring coffee to Dr. Black?
I went about various tasks. I finished polishing and went to my office to find the latest copy of the Lamps letter for Professor Plum. I also served some drinks and tidied up the lounge. It was quite frustrating, as so many people, like Mrs. Peacock, kept coming in and out, drinking the tub dry and leaving the stuff everywhere.
You remained at the lounge bar for that entire duration after speaking with Mr. Green before Dr. Black's body was discovered.
I did leave for a moment and went upstairs, then returned to the bar.
Okay. Did you see anybody up there?
Well, I passed Professor Plum, and I didn't see anyone else. But I saw Mr. Green. Now there's someone you need to watch.
Why did you go upstairs to tidy after Mr. Green revealed Dr. Black's duplicity?
I suppose I did it out of habit, and I was flustered by those revelations and needed to keep my hands busy.
Evening, Mr. Green. You're quite a busy man here in the club, aiding Dr. Black in his schemes. I think you better explain yourself.
Well, look, you gotta believe me. You gotta believe me. I never intended to get mixed up in this mess. It just kind of happened. My love has always been architecture. I was raised in an ecclesiastical family, and my grandfather had intentions for me in that direction, but I had to design. So, to keep in their good books and to maintain their financial support, I decided to dedicate my talents to God, to design churches and cathedrals. And then along comes Black with his proposal to turn the club into a private estate. And I was intrigued. And frankly, I was keen on the enormous commission that he was offering me. I don't know, it's so ironic. It's so ironic. I decided to, glorify God, and I ended up designing for the devil himself, Dr. Black.
What can you reveal about the money that went missing from the club before Dr. Black became president?
Well, it's complex. It's complex. And I have to be careful what I say because I don't want to dig myself in any deeper. So this is between us. When Black was ascending to the presidency, he hatched a scheme to fund his private estate. We got Mrs. White to plunder the club treasury, and that was the money that I lent to Scarlett, which she then invested with Dr. Black. It was all a scheme to just tie a paper trail to Scarlett.
Why did you loan money to Miss Scarlett to invest in Dr. Black's estate?
Yeah, I feel terrible about this, but we were just planning to screw Scarlett over. We wanted to make all the legal liabilities attached to her. Nothing personal with Scarlett, just business. Just business. We wanted to keep our hands clean.
What did you do with the wrench and rope after you got caught in Miss Scarlett's rope trap?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure. I know I didn't have it when I was looking for Black. I must have set it aside during the search. I don't know.
Where did you look upstairs for Dr. Black? And did you see anyone up there?
Yeah, I looked in the boardroom, the library, and the studio. When I was going upstairs, I actually passed first Professor Plum and then Mrs. White. And they were in a big hurry. It didn't even occur to me to ask them if they saw Black.
Did you see the lead pipe during your search or anything else unusual?
Again, I'm not sure. I lost track of the pipe after I threw it on the floor in the boardroom. I'll say this though. When I'm in the boardroom, I noticed that my blueprints weren't there anymore.
Hello, Mrs. Peacock. I'd first like to ask, how did you get acquainted with Dr. Black, who was to be your husband?
Well, we met at an opera in Venice. I was the understudy for the lead in Madame Butterfly, who had got sick from a bout of food poisoning from a canola, I guess, or something. I simply bowled Dr. Black over with my lustrous voice, and he sought me out afterwards backstage and invited me on a gondola ride. Oh, it was like a fairy tale. Well, a few months later, I joined the Arts and Letters Club and became a member of the music committee at Dr. Black's behest.
Did you suspect Dr. Black was really interested in your late husband's firm? And what was his firm exactly?
Well, it did seem like Dr. Black was in a hurry to merge with Harold's Enterprises. Harold had started Peacock Enterprises from the vast Peacock fortune. He had set it up to be a philanthropic outreach for global humanitarianism and the arts. It did involve expansive building projects, of course.
Can you explain your connection with Colonel Mustard? And why did she entrust you with her revolver?
Well, the Colonel became a very dear friend of mine during my early days as a member, and suffice it to say, she's been a bit of a protector of me, provided me with a revolver in good faith out of concern for me since of my dissolving engagement with Dr. Black. Well, mind you, she is a bit absent-minded, and she forgot to load the revolver. Probably a good thing.
Where did you find the wrench, and what did you plan to have done with it?
The wrench, with the wrench. Yes. I found it on a table near Miss Scarlett. She didn't seem to be using it for anything, and so I took it for my own protection, since the revolver had proved quite useless.
I see. What happened when you and Colonel Mustard left the lounge to get your coat?
I believe I blacked out. I awoke suddenly in a chair, and I saw the Colonel coming to me with my coat from the direction of the changing room.
Did you know Dr. Black would have been in the elevator?
Certainly not. Why, seeing his corpse was the shock of my life.
I can imagine it was, Mrs. Peacock.
Hello, Professor Plum. Old sir. I understand that you've been quite a long-time member here at the Arts and Letters Club.
Yes, I am, and thank you for acknowledging that fact. I've been with the Arts and Letters Club as an esteemed member of the Literary Committee for many years. In fact, I've been with the club far longer than Dr. Black, and I have to admit, I feel little regret that he is dead. Can you believe he and I were once friends?
Can you elaborate on the nature of your friendship with the deceased?
Well, you may be surprised to know when Dr. Black first joined the club, he was very evasive, very shy. I helped him to step out of his shell and acquaint himself with club activities and fellow members. He and I had a mutual love of classical literature.
What did you do with the Lamps letter after reading it?
I put it in my pocket, but I think it fell out again.
Did you believe that your plan with Miss Scarlet to ensnare Dr. Black in Row would have been successful?
Well, I will admit I was a little skeptical. Miss Scarlet tends to live in her own mind, dangerous as that seems. However, I was so angry with Dr. Black's snub, I was willing to try anything.
Did you see anyone upstairs while you waited for Dr. Black to get ensnared in the rope?
Yes, I saw Mrs. White exiting the boardroom, rolling a trolley. I asked her if she'd seen Dr. Black, and she said she thought he might be downstairs.
What did you do next?
Well, I heard a commotion and a gunshot and Miss Scarlet scream. So I let go of the rope and made my way downstairs to see if Dr. Black had been caught.